comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, 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 money.
Dollar, dollar.
Guys, hey fellow CoinHounds. So I wanted to do this special video for you, and the reason is because I've heard a lot of people that have asked, why is the District of Columbia quarter in the state quarter series when Washington, D.C. isn't a state? And then I've also heard people argue about what state is Washington, D.C. actually in. So I wanted to do this just to help to explain this and hopefully clear up the confusion. So I'm going to start with the quick answer to this question, which is the District of Columbia quarter actually is not part of the state quarter program. So I'm going to give a little bit of rundown here on what's been going on with quarters lately. So starting in 1999, the United States Mint began the U.S. State Quarter Program, featuring a special design quarter for all of the 50 states. And that ran through 2008. In 2009, they ran a 6-quarter series called the U.S. Territory Quarters. And these are the Outer Territories and District of Columbia. These are places that they're not states, they're just territories that the United States owns. And then in 2010, they began the America the Beautiful Quarter Program, which will run until 2021 and features state parks from all around the U.S. and the outer territories. So that's the easy answer, is that Washington, D.C. is not part of the U.S. State Quarter Program. But I want to give a more of a deep explanation on what the territories are and what the District of Columbia is, and it might surprise a lot of you. So I want to start with the island nations. So Guam, along with the Northern Marianas Islands, the Philippines, and Puerto Rico, became territories of the United States as part of the terms of the Treaty of Paris that officially ended the Spanish-American War of 1898. The Philippines was awarded full independence from the United States in 1946 when the Treaty of Manila was signed, which is why today you can find coins from the Philippines which say United States of America and have U.S. mint marks on them. But then you can also find coins from the Philippines that are just strictly Philippine coins. Puerto Rico and Guam, however, continue to be United States-owned territories. The Northern Marianas Islands did not, however, become officially a U.S. territory until later. Part of the trust territory of the Pacific Islands granted to the United States by the United Nations in 1947, the Northern Marianas voted for status as a U.S. Commonwealth in 1975. Some aspects of the Commonwealth status were implemented in 1976, and the full Commonwealth became effective upon the dissolution of the trust territory for the Marianas by the U.S. government in 1986. Eligible residents of the Commonwealth became U.S. citizens at that time. Beginning in 1867, the United States made several attempts to expand its influence into the Caribbean by acquiring the Danish West Indies. In 1917, the United States purchased the U.S. Virgin Islands. The U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico lie next to Cuba across the Gulf from the Florida Keys. In 1878, the United States signed a treaty for the establishment of a naval station in Pago Pago Harbor. An 1899 agreement between colonial powers divided Samoa into spheres of influence. Germany gained control of the Western Islands, and the United States took the Eastern Islands. American Samoa lies about midway between Hawaii and New Zealand. Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia are pushing for becoming full-fledged U.S. states. Guam, however, along with the Northern Marianas Islands, want independence from the United States because they're not allowed to vote and have very little say in how the islands are run, and are upset about the planned massive military buildup on Guam over the next 10 years. So that about covers the island nations. And now let's talk about the District of Columbia, or as most of you know it, Washington, D.C. So this goes all the way back to the beginning of the United States, back in the days of Columbus and Washington, and when the country was first becoming its own country and the states were first becoming figured out as territories. So on July 6 in 1790, Congress passed the Residence Act, giving President George Washington the task of selecting a site for the national capital on the banks of the Potomac River. He selected the current site, which included the cities of Georgetown, Alexandria, and other smaller settlements like Carrollsburg, Hamburg, and Tennessee. Once the 100 square mile site was chosen, Washington called it the Federal City. Thomas Johnson, David Smart, and Daniel Carroll wrote a letter to Pierre L. L'Enfant, I hope I said that name right, which read, "Sir, we have agreed that the federal district shall be called the Territory of Columbia, and the federal city of Washington. The title of the map will therefore be a map of the city of Washington in the Territory of Columbia. We have also agreed that the streets be named alphabetically one way and numerically the other, the former to be divided north and south, and the latter east and west. Number from the capital. Major Ellicott, with proper assistance, will immediately take and soon furnish you with the soundings of the eastern branch, which will to be inserted into the map. We expect he will also furnish you with the proposed post road, which we will, which we wish to be noticed on the map. We are respectfully yours, Thomas Johnson, David Smart, Daniel Carroll." In the end, the territory was replaced by district, giving the city its final name, Washington, District of Columbia, named after both George Washington and Christopher Columbus. So we now have the city of Washington, which is 68.34 square miles, which lies within the 100 square mile U.S. territory called the District of Columbia. So the full answer for the District of Columbia question is that it's actually, Washington, D.C. is not in a state. It actually lies between Virginia and Maryland. But it is not a state. It is not officially part of any of the 50 United States. It is a U.S.-owned territory which happens to lie on the continental United States. So I hope that that helps to answer the question about the District of Columbia quarter and clear up some of the confusion. And if anybody has any further questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I will do my best to research them and give you the best answer that I can. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. In the comment section below, if you have any ideas for future videos, any other questions about American history having to do with currency, please feel free to leave those, and we'll try and answer them, or if they're a really good idea, we'll even do a new video on it. So, until next time, this is Cheapskate Coins, and we'll see you later.